So that in a school with educated men and women, the principal will take the school to its knees, ground it, and the teachers are just watching. Because even when the principal appears in school, everybody is scared, from the students to the teachers. I will interview myself as the president. I will say this. I want a man or woman to run the University of Nairobi. And I want to give you 30 days or so, or even 3 months. Come back to me in State House one morning and I'll give you the date. Tell me only one thing. How you'll make the University of Nairobi, at the end of every financial year, show me they have saved 50 billion. Only, there's nothing else.
Truly delighted that you have joined us on yet another edition of Business Glide here on Herman Manyora channel. My name is Richard Mwanjo. Now, institutions of higher learning in Kenya, to be precise, the 31 public universities, continue to be going concerns, and to the eyes of many stakeholders and taxpayers, nothing but cash cows. The recent ones on the receiving end of such difficulties being Moi University and Egerton University facing financial constraints. They have come with a number, or rather a raft of cost-cutting measures and a number of income-generating streams. Will they be viable and sound enough? To bring this conversation home, I'm joined by none other than public scholar Herman Manyora. Professor, welcome on set.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. In the current fiscal year, we saw the government enhance an allocation of 76.3 billion towards enhancing university education. However, there is an increasing demand from education stakeholders that universities, public universities, be self-reliant as much as possible. For the case of public universities, say Nairobi University and Moi University, they have a number of income-generating streams, talk of amphitheaters, real estate investments. But up to now, we are seeing their performance being on a real low scale. Why the freezing in terms of viability of these very projects?
First of all, the government did not give that money as enhancement. It is just an enhanced package.
All right.
Slightly more than the previous years. But universities continue to be underfunded grossly by government. Having said that, we must, however, point out that even if universities were well funded, even if they had serious income generation activity, the ones they have are not very. The only successful income generating activity the university has been involved in, any university, more so the big one, has been Module 2 student
parallel programs,
that brought in billions of shillings when the going was good. So, but income does not translate to well-being. It is how you manage the resources. You know, it is a physical policies. So it's not just money coming in. But granted, yes, the universities are starved of cash by the exchequer. Yeah, but how they manage whatever they get is also another issue.
All right, sticking to that context, financially crippled Moi University with a whooping debt of 4.5 billion shillings. The other time came with a raft of income-generating streams. And top of their list is cultivation of apples in a 100-acre piece of farm. And they say in the next 4 years, they will be able to generate at least 80 billion Kenya shillings. And if they are to be the worst farmers, at least 40 billion Kenya shillings. Now, aren't they being too ambitious with regards to such ventures, which of course is a situation that cuts across major public universities?
You know, it is simply laughable. The people who have brought the Moi University down cannot convince me that the people will bring 80 billion shillings. You bring an institution down to its knees, and then you want to come around and tell me that venture is just another cash cow. It's just a project to eat. You can't convince me that, my friend,
the experts have been on
record. You bring an institution down. But my friend, we were also told Kulal will give us a million bags of maize. We will do 1 million acres and bring on board, I don't know how many million bags of maize. This is just talk.
All right.
Yeah.
Part of the international lender IMF condition attached to its loan advancement of upwards of 257 billion in the early part of the year was to see public entities, parastatals, go on restructuring, full throttle. And top of those that were to undergo restructuring were public universities, the top of them. We have seen University of Nairobi undergo merging of departments, which of course resulted in job losses among other effects. A situation that Moi University has also picked up, and Egerton University. Now, aren't we pushing too much now that this front will result in job losses among other initiatives?
Quick correction.
Uh-huh.
So far, the restructuring at the University of Nairobi has led to no job loss.
I see.
Nobody has lost their job at the University of Nairobi because of restructuring. I'm saying so far.
All right.
And the council and the vice chancellor have guaranteed the university community they will not lose. That again is a guarantee, is an undertaking. Whether or not they will live up to that is another story. Don't hold me against this.
Absolutely.
When in the future people are sacked.
Sued, yeah.
But so far, none. And so far, serious undertaking, there will be none. So I don't think IMF is somebody I want to take seriously.
Why though?
IMF has a history. All their interventions have brought chaos and calamity in all the sectors. Nothing good has come from IMF.
But we need their money.
The structural adjustment programs brought disaster in every sector in this country. Yeah. Today, students are endangering their lives by using all manner of crude gadgets to prepare meals in the hostels. Some of them almost being forced to get married in the hostels because we were told we can't feed children. And yet education is a full-time job. In developed countries, students can take care of themselves because that culture is there. We have not achieved and acquired that culture where you can give somebody 20,000 as a student and they take good care of themselves, they eat well. Being cognizant of that factor will convince us and persuade us that should persuade us that putting students on their own will compromise their education. And we should have disregarded the IMF and continue taking care of our children so that they engage in the serious business of learning.
All right.
In the health sector, people fail to go to hospital, government hospitals, because they are going to pay. Ostensibly because IMF made us introduce cost sharing.
Yeah, true.
Now, a hospital is keeping a patient away, and yet in a whole year, they can barely raise 2 million. Look, people are unable to attend the hospital because there's some payment. Yet, the payment you get from those people when they come, for those who come, even if everybody went, is nothing. It can't do anything. So, why are you keeping people away from hospital? And you know what that means? Society will pay for it. Because certain preventable diseases cannot be prevented. Certain infectious diseases spread. You get what I'm saying? The benefit of going to hospital are then lost, and they are lost because through the IMF austerity measures, cost sharing and what have you, pay as you get treated as you do whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's keeping people from hospital. And yet, what they realize from that scheme is nothing. So you get what I'm saying, even for the university. The universities are run by the best brains, also I think.
True.
They should be able to restructure without being told by anybody. So to tell them that the IMF can tell us what to do, it's painful.
All right. In a move to revitalize their financial positions, we have seen a number of universities led by the major one, Nairobi University, increase their fees just so to get their financial position afloat. A case that Moi University is hinting at. Do you support this view that the next frontier to take is now doubling the fees and other charges?
There are two ways of looking at fees. 2 or 3 ways.
All right.
One is that universities need money to run.
Absolutely.
They are given students by the government, and others are fee-paying students. From whichever source, the university must get sufficient resources to run, to operate. If that will mean increase in fees, so be it. That's a very clinical way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
But then you must also ask yourself, why is education subsidized across the world? Why do we have student loans across the world? Why do we have bursaries? Why do we have scholarships? It is so that children from poor backgrounds do not miss on education if they are bright because they can't pay fees. So while you are putting these things in place, remember the cardinal principle of no bright student missing out on education on account of financial inability. That must inform all policy, including whether or not to charge fees. Now, arising out of these two, I can now tell you is that in my thinking, nobody should be charged fees to attend public universities.
All right.
All Kenyans should get university education free of charge. That is at the level of where we are at the level of development as a third world country that aspires to get middle income status and on its way to the first world. We must have as many educated young men and women as possible.
True.
No fees should be charged in any university. But you see, that is a higher ideal. Something that can be realized by the president of a country in his vision to transform his country.
Absolutely.
You cannot leave that to the vice chancellor. University management have a university to run. To run that university, you need money. If the only way to raise money is through fees, then they will increase fees. To blame them is to miss the point. Those who are blaming the universities, and even courts, you are courts again. Even courts are stepping in, saying don't charge. But then they don't proceed to tell us, if you don't charge fees, how do you run the university? Absolutely. So you stop University of Nairobi from increasing fees. But you don't tell them how to run the university.
True.
So you are telling them, run the university until it collapses. Because it surely will collapse.
All right.
So a lack of thinking from the quarters, including the court and Kenyans who are blaming universities for raising fees. They must push government through their representatives to know that a third world country like this should not charge fees at the university level. Government should cater for the fees.
I see.
But before you reach there, please, if universities must run, government must increase its capitation to universities. You see?
All right.
And universities will be allowed to charge market rate reasonable fees to its fee-paying students. That's the reality. Yeah.
All right. The Inspector General of State Corporations, Mr. Theodora Gichana, was on record the other day saying that the major concern with public universities is the flouting of the procurement regulations. And they say that this is backed by even regional politics. Now, how do we address this issue to the fullest, now that I thought universities should be independently when it comes to procurement and no other factors should influence the decisions? Because they say VCs are held captive by regional leaders in terms of advancing their favors.
Universities are tribal in nature. Every village wants to have a university. So once we have our university in our region, then it belongs to us. We want to know who becomes vice chancellor. Best case, more university.
True.
We push for our own tribesmen. Once we are pushed for our own tribesmen, how much control do we have? How much say would we have in terms of ensuring they work well? And what is worse, we now use them to fleece the university.
True.
By overhiring staff, by funny tendering and contracting businesses, then the university will collapse. But that's not enough. Government itself does not leave universities sufficient autonomy to run. Government wants to micromanage universities. Government should come up with the policies and guidelines and a proper oversight mechanism to ensure universities that the vice chancellor and management do not have a field day. So, from the tribal kingpins in the region and other people to the university itself. Now, if you are the vice chancellor, now you know, okay, now I even myself, I'll eat. You get it? So that's what ails our universities. Yeah.
All right. We've seen unions such as KUSU, KUDHEIHA, and UASU come on board and say that the problem public universities are facing right now, they alarmed the government early enough, but they were given a deaf ear. And they've said they have tried to seek audience of the relevant vice chancellors, but it has amounted to a game of cat and mouse. You seek address of the vice chancellor, but then again, probably he even relocates to another office, he or she. Now, why are we still facing communication bureaucracies in these public universities in that we cannot really address union grievances as early as possible?
You see, this country has one problem. The one-man king syndrome.
Uh-huh.
Let me give an example of our school.
All right.
And you can take it to your university and you can take it to any other government office.
Uh-huh.
The moment you make Richard the principal of our school, he becomes a king and a god. He's a king. He's a god in that school. This is what is destroying this country. So that in a school with educated men and women, the principal will take the school to its knees, ground it, and the teachers are just watching. Because even when the principal appears in school, everybody's scared, from the students to the teachers.
Uh-huh.
The same applies at the universities, where the vice chancellor is a god. It's a one-man show. It is what is destroying government. You go to a government office, the director of an institute or a department, he's a king, he's a god. Unless Kenyans have a way of questioning their leadership. We now question the president of this country. We question governors. But we can't question small people like principals.
Uh-huh.
You get it?
True.
You see people stopping Uhuru from doing things. Not just the judiciary, other institutions. People are questioning the president. But we can't question the principal of our school, the vice chancellor. So one man, unless we solve our management style, and there's something I wrote sometimes. It's in a book of mine I wrote.
True.
There's a passage in a communication book I wrote. I think the book is called Optimal English, in which I say, if you want to improve management of schools, break down the principal, break him into pieces.
Uh-huh.
Let teachers run the school on a rotational basis, so that the teacher on duty for this week has certain powers. This month, 3-4 teachers will be the ones managing certain aspects. And periodically, there are certain tasks. So we are looking at tasks and giving them to different teachers and rotating them and making committees. So that the head of an institution is just one among equal. If you don't break the principle into pieces, education will continue to be expensive. I sent a tweet yesterday to Citizen TV. Was it yesterday or the other, some time back? And it unsettled the guy I was sending the tweet to. Because I'm saying the principals have made education so expensive. It's a one-man show. Same with the universities. If you do not remove this one-man show in the management of public affairs, our institutions will continue to go down and down and down. So that if you have a bad vice chancellor, you'll end up with more university the way it is.
All right.
And yet this is an institution with all the PhDs in the world, with all the professors.
True.
But they are just there as one man is destroying. Because that is how we do things in this country. We watch as one man destroys an institution until he leaves. We had a vice chancellor, when he left, people were celebrating. I wrote in the, I think, Standard newspaper. I said, I find it very stupid for professors to be celebrating that some vice chancellor has gone down. Where were you? You want to tell me one man can bring down the University of Nairobi when all of you are just there?
Full-blown professors.
Professors, now you are celebrating that he has left. I want to look at them and ask them, you celebrated. Why are you complaining now? And even if this one leaves, another one will come and they'll say even the other one was better. The idea is, let's find a management, because we have been unable to produce good leaders. And you know why we have produced bad leaders? Because, Richard, we are using the leadership model of the 19th century, where the leader is supposed to be a tough man, even big. It was drawn from the school principle.
True.
Even the body, you are supposed to be big, with a boomering voice, commanding presence. That was the leader then. We have copied that and we are stuck there. We must get out of that. Let leaders be people who are just heading institutions. They are not kings.
True.
And they can be questioned.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, there is a state-sponsored bill that once it sails through, it will see this Cabinet Secretary for Education have the utmost power to appoint vice-chancellors, their deputies, as well as college principals. Now, do you see that this is the silver bullet that will address cases of regional politics in appointments of vice-chancellors, as well as just curbing influence from external parties?
It doesn't matter how they are appointed, so long as once they are in the office, they will still remain demigods. They will still be allowed to overemploy, to overspend. They won't change anything. We see we are dealing with that which can't make any material change. You get it?
True.
If we wanted to employ a vice chancellor, if I was the president of this country, And I want the University of Nairobi, all this to be tough. I will advertise those positions. I will interview myself as the president. I will say this. I want a man or woman to run the University of Nairobi. And I want to give you 30 days or so, or even 3 months. Come back to me in State House one morning and I'll give you the date. Tell me only one thing. How you'll make the University of Nairobi, at the end of every financial year, show me they have saved 50 billion. Only, there's nothing else. Without interfering with the main calling of the university. Without departing from academics, which is the mainstay of the university. Show me how the University of Nairobi, in 2 years, will never want a shilling from government. One, after 3 years, if you want to be the principal of Lenana, with that land, show me how Lenana School will pay its teachers so that they're not paid by TSC. Or you give that money to TSC to pay teachers.
All right. The very last, Professor, we have seen the High Court being at loggerheads with the Salaries and Remunerations Commissions. On the side of the High Court, they say implement the collective bargaining agreements to the fullest. But now SRC says probably the little money that we have directed towards this and other point. Now, why don't we fully execute the collective bargaining agreements, both internal ones from the universities themselves and the national ones?
SRC was a big mistake. Because SRC goes against that which is provided in the Constitution. The right of workers to negotiate for salaries, to go on strike, to picket. By restricting the manner in which and the space in which workers can negotiate for their salaries, SRC is contravening the Constitution. You get it? SRC, say from the time of Serem, has been a joke. Where we have wanted them to show they have power, for example, against a rogue parliament, giving itself excessive privileges in terms of monetary gains. SRC has been a timid thing, coward. So SRC is a big joke. It was not well thought out. It should be disbanded.
Then what happens to the
Because it is standing
CBS?
in the way of the constitutional provisions for Kenyans to be able to negotiate for their own benefits, salaries, and welfare.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that has been the perspective of Professor Herman Manyora with regards to reinstating the financial positions of these very public universities and giving us an outlook of what their future looks like. But before we leave you on Business Glide, as is our norm, we give credits due to our fan of the week, rather view of the week. And today we go to Atlanta, Georgia, a lady by the name of Patricia. Thanks,
Patricia, from Atlanta, Georgia. The land of Coca-Cola, I suspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are very happy that you are following us and convince other Americans and other diaspora Kenyans to subscribe to our channel, to join and be part of our community.
All right.
Thank you.
There still exists a raft of issues that we need to address concerning higher learning in Kenya here, but that's why Business Glide exists. A step at a time, we get you covered on all you need to do, both from the educational sectors, agriculture, you name it. And coming up next on your screen is our African Proverb of the Day, a new segment here on Business Glide, so stay glued. My name is Richard Mwenja. Until next time, God bless.